What would you do if someone accused you of stealing? Just because of how you look. She walked into an upscale boutique to browse, like any other customer. But within minutes, she was being cornered by the store manager, accused of stealing a $150,000 watch. He didn't care that she said she paid. He didn't care that she showed no sign of guilt. To him, she just didn't look like someone who could afford it. Held against her will, humiliated in front of customers, she stood her ground. Even when the sales associate confirmed she paid, the manager refused to back down. But then, one credit card receipt shattered his assumptions. Because Simone Palmer wasn't just a customer. She was the owner of the entire luxury chain. And this wasn't just a shopping trip. It was a test. One he failed. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comments section where in the world you are watching this video. And also do well to smash that subscribe button. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the pristine glass windows of Luxe Timepieces, one of the most prestigious watch boutiques in the upscale shopping district. The store's marble floors gleamed under the carefully positioned lighting, while rows of exquisite timepieces sparkled behind reinforced glass cases. Each watch represented months of craftsmanship, some worth more than most people's annual salaries. Simone Palmer adjusted the sleek watch on her wrist as she made her way toward the exit, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. She had been conducting one of her unannounced visits to this particular location, a practice she had maintained ever since acquiring the chain of luxury watch stores 3 years ago. Today's visit had been particularly enlightening. She had been genuinely impressed by the customer service provided by Nancy, one of the younger sales associates who had helped her select and purchase the limited edition timepiece now adorning her wrist. As Simone approached the door, she felt a sense of satisfaction. The store was running smoothly, the staff was professional, and the customer experience had been exceptional. She was already mentally composing the glowing review she would write for this location when a sharp voice cut through the ambient sounds of the boutique. "Excuse me, miss. Stop right there." Simone turned to see a middle-aged man in a tailored suit striding toward her with purposeful steps. His name tag identified him as Mark, store manager. His expression was stern, his eyes fixed on her wrist with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, is there a problem?" Simone asked, maintaining her composure despite the man's aggressive approach. Mark positioned himself between Simone and the exit, his arms crossed. "I think you know exactly what the problem is. You're trying to steal that watch." The accusation hung in the air like a physical blow. Simone felt her heart rate increase as she processed what she had just heard. "Steal? No, of course not. I paid for this watch. Get over here, Ray." Mark called to the security guard stationed near the entrance. "Block the door. Don't let her leave. We caught another thief." Ray, a tall man in his 50s with graying hair, looked confused but moved to comply with his manager's directive. Other customers in the store began to notice the commotion, some pausing their browsing to watch the unfolding scene. "Thief? I didn't steal anything," Simone protested, her voice rising slightly as the gravity of the situation became clear. "I paid for this watch. You can check your records." Mark's laugh was cold and dismissive. "Funny, because when we sell items in this store, we put them in very nice presentation boxes. And I don't see you carrying one of those, do I?" Simone felt a flush of irritation. "I didn't want a box. I wanted to wear my watch out of the store. I have things to do today. Please, this is ridiculous. You expect me to believe that you paid for this watch?" Mark's voice dripped with skepticism as he gestured toward the timepiece on her wrist. "And why is that so hard to believe?" Simone asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Mark's expression hardened. "Because this is a limited edition piece with a price tag of $150,000. There's no way someone like you can afford it." The words hit Simone like a physical blow. Someone like you. She had heard those words before, in different contexts, throughout her life. The implication was clear, and it had nothing to do with her actual financial status or character. Someone like me? Simone's voice was steady, but there was steel beneath the surface. You know, you really shouldn't accuse someone of not being able to afford something based on the color of their skin. It has a way of haunting you. Mark's face flushed red. How dare you try to turn this around on me? That doesn't help you get away with stealing. This has nothing to do with your race. Well, it sure seems like it to me, Simone replied, her composure intact despite the mounting tension. No, it doesn't, Mark snapped. This is about you being a thief, and me catching you red-handed. Stealing an item this expensive is a Class A felony, and I'll see to it that they charge you to the full extent of the law. I'm telling you, I paid for that watch, Simone insisted, her patience wearing thin. Mark's smirk was infuriating. Sure you did, and I'm sure you have the receipt to prove that, right? Simone's heart sank as she realized she had declined the receipt in her haste to leave. I didn't get a receipt. I was in a hurry. Right, because who wants a receipt when they buy something for 6 figures? Mark's sarcasm was palpable. Give me a break, lady. No one believes that, least of all me. I'm telling you the truth, Simone said firmly. Mark leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a challenging tone. Okay, fine. Then tell me which sales associate helped you. Simone glanced around the store, looking for the young woman who had assisted her. I don't see her on the floor right now. Shocking, Mark said with exaggerated surprise. That's probably because you're lying and you're trying to steal this watch. No, her name was Nancy. I just don't see her right now. Mark began to laugh, a sound that made Simone's skin crawl. What is so funny? She asked. Nancy's on her lunch break, which means I can't ask her. And that's mighty convenient for you, don't you think? Well, considering I'm innocent, I actually find it mighty inconvenient, Simone replied. Look, why don't you save everyone a lot of time and just wait for Nancy to return? She can confirm everything. Mark shook his head. Why don't you save everyone a lot of time and confess already? The longer you drag this out, the harder it's going to be on you. I didn't do anything wrong, Simone stated firmly. Fine, we're going to have to do this the hard way. Ray, take this criminal to the back office. Mark's voice carried an air of finality. No, you can't hold me here, Simone protested as Ray approached her reluctantly. And don't let her out of that office until we get to the bottom of this. Understood. Mark directed his words to Ray, who nodded uncomfortably. Get off of me. I can walk on my own, Simone said as Ray gently guided her toward the back of the store. The back office was cramped and windowless, filled with filing cabinets and a small desk cluttered with paperwork. Simone sat in the single chair, her mind racing as she tried to process what was happening. The injustice of the situation was overwhelming, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had dealt with prejudice before, though rarely so blatantly. This is ridiculous, she muttered to herself. From outside the office, she could hear Mark's voice. I agree. It's ridiculous that she thought she could get away with this in my store. I didn't think I could get away with anything, Simone called back. Because I didn't do anything wrong. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the office door. You wanted to see me, Mark? Came a familiar voice. Yes, Nancy, come in, Mark replied. Simone looked up to see the young woman who had helped her earlier. Nancy was in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. She looked surprised to see Simone in the office. What are you still doing here? Nancy asked, genuine concern in her voice. So you know this woman? Mark asked, his tone suggesting he thought he had caught Nancy in something. Well, I wouldn't say that I know her personally, but I helped her with a purchase today, Nancy replied. Mark's eyes lit up with what he clearly thought was vindication. You mean she actually paid for this watch? Of course she did, Nancy said, looking confused by the question. Thank you, Simone said, feeling a wave of relief. Now can I have my watch back and leave? But Mark wasn't finished. Sit down. You're not off the hook yet. I know how this con works. Nancy looked between Mark and Simone, clearly bewildered. Con? What's all this about? Wake up, Nancy, Mark said condescendingly. She suckered you. That's what this is all about. This woman obviously didn't use her own credit card to buy this watch. Why are you saying that? Nancy asked, her voice rising with indignation. Because I have eyes that work, Mark replied smugly. The implication was clear, and Nancy's face flushed with anger. Your boss thinks I stole the watch because I'm black, Simone said quietly. That's gross, Mark, Nancy said, her voice filled with disgust. You can't make that assumption about people, especially our customers. Mark's face reddened. Wake up, Nancy. She's not a real customer. She's a thief. She's just trying to make you feel guilty, so you overlook the fact that she conned you. She didn't con me, Nancy insisted. Her card cleared without any problems. That's probably because whoever she stole it from doesn't realize it's missing yet, Mark said dismissively. Unbelievable, Nancy muttered, shaking her head. You don't have any proof of that, Mark, Nancy continued, her voice stronger now. You're drawing a conclusion based entirely on your own biases. Spare me the woke nonsense, Mark snapped. This is the real world, and I'm trying to protect the store. No, you're being racist, and I think you owe Simone an apology, Nancy said firmly. Mark's face turned an even deeper shade of red. Racist? How dare you call me that? What else would you call it? Nancy challenged. I call it doing my job, and I refuse to apologize for it. I'm right about her, and I can prove it. Go fetch the credit card receipts from the register. Nancy hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Fine, but if I find out she used a legitimate credit card, you owe her more than just an apology. And if I find out she used a stolen credit card, I'm going to fire you unless you apologize to me right now, Mark threatened. Hold up, Simone interjected, standing up. There's no need to threaten this young lady's job. No one asked you, criminal, Mark snapped. So what's it going to be, Nancy? Mark continued. Whose side are you going to take? Your boss, or some con artist? Nancy looked at Simone, then back at Mark. Listen, I appreciate what you're doing for me, Simone said to Nancy. But there's no need to risk your job. I will be fine, I promise. I believe in doing what's right, even if it's difficult, Nancy replied with quiet determination. I'll get the receipt, and we'll see what happens. Nancy left the office, and Mark paced back and forth, clearly confident in his position. You really screwed up this time, he said to Simone. What are you talking about? Simone asked. You'll see, Mark said cryptically. A few minutes later, Nancy returned with a printed receipt. Here you go, she said, handing it to Mark. See, it cleared just fine. Mark examined the receipt, and his expression slowly changed from confidence to confusion, then to something approaching horror. You really screwed up this time, lady, he said, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. What are you talking about? Simone asked, genuinely puzzled. The name on the card you stole, Mark said, his voice shaking slightly. Simone Palmer. If you had tried this at any other store, you might have gotten away with it. Unfortunately for you, I know Simone Palmer. She owns this entire chain of stores. Mark's voice grew stronger as he continued, apparently convinced he had solved the mystery. Which means not only was I right about you being a thief and a liar, it also means I'm in line for a major promotion once Miss Palmer finds out I caught the woman who stole her card. He turned to Nancy with a triumphant expression. Which also means you're fired, Nancy. I want you out of the building in the next 10 minutes. I'll send you your last check. And when you're out looking for another job, I wouldn't ask anyone here for a recommendation if I were you. Mark pulled out his phone, presumably to call the police. Before you dial 911, Simone said calmly, may I ask you a question? Mark looked up from his phone. What? Do you know Simone Palmer? I just told you she owns the entire chain, Mark replied impatiently. I've been on several conference calls with the woman. I got that, Simone said. But have you ever met her in person? Mark paused. No. What difference does that make? Then before you connect that call, I suggest you do a quick search on your phone for Simone Palmer. See what images come up. Something in Simone's tone made Mark hesitate. He looked at her more closely, then slowly typed into his phone. The color drained from his face as he stared at the screen. Look familiar? Simone asked quietly. Mark's phone slipped from his trembling hand. Nancy looked between them, beginning to understand what was happening. You see, Simone continued, her voice calm but firm. Sometimes I like to do unannounced spot checks at my locations, just to see how everything is going. And when I met Nancy here, she did an amazing job with customer service today. I was going to write a glowing review for your store, Mark, before you accused me of theft. Mark's face was pale, and he struggled to find words. But that's not what I was trying to do. I swear, I was just trying to do my job. Your job is to manage this store, Simone replied. It's not to undermine our customers based on your personal biases. I'm sorry, Mark stammered. If I had known that was you, I wouldn't have. That doesn't make it any better, Simone interrupted. It's like Nancy said. Everyone deserves respect, whether they own this store or not. But Mark began. But nothing, Mark. You're fired. I want you out of the store in the next 10 minutes, and we'll mail your last check. Ray, please escort him out. Ray, who had been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward. You can't do this, Mark protested. No one can run the store like I can. Actually, you're right, Simone said thoughtfully. I think Nancy can do an even better job. She turned to the young woman. What do you say, Nancy? Do you want to be the new store manager? Nancy's eyes widened in shock. Really? I'd love to. This is a nightmare, Mark muttered as Ray gently but firmly guided him toward the exit. Ray, come on, you know me. But Ray continued his task, professional and silent. After Mark had been escorted out, Simone turned to Nancy. Thank you so much, Nancy. I promise you won't regret this decision. I promise I won't let you down, Nancy replied, still somewhat in shock. I know you won't, Simone said with a warm smile. And thank you for what you did today. It showed so much character. And we need people like you in this world. I can't wait to see what you do as the new store manager. As Simone finally left the store, she reflected on the afternoon's events. While the incident had been unpleasant, it had also revealed something important about her organization. She had discovered not only a problem that needed to be addressed, but also a valuable employee who deserved recognition and advancement. The watch on her wrist caught the afternoon light as she walked to her car, a reminder of both the ordeal she had endured and the positive change that had come from it. Sometimes, she thought, the most difficult experiences could lead to the most meaningful outcomes. Nancy watched from the store window as Simone drove away, still processing everything that had happened. She looked around the store that was now her responsibility, feeling a mixture of excitement and determination. She had stood up for what was right, even when it was difficult, and it had changed her life in ways she never could have imagined. The store continued to operate smoothly for the rest of the day, but there was a different energy in the air. The staff had witnessed something significant, a reminder that treating every customer with dignity and respect wasn't just good business. It was simply the right thing to do. As the sun set over the shopping district, casting long shadows through the windows of luxe timepieces, Nancy prepared to close the store for the day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but she felt ready to face them with the same integrity and character that had earned her this unexpected promotion. The incident would be talked about for weeks among the staff, becoming a story that reinforced the values they all hoped to embody. It was a reminder that assumptions based on appearance or prejudice could have serious consequences, and that standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult, was always worth it. In the end, the afternoon that had started with such promise, taken a dark turn, and ultimately led to justice being served, became a defining moment not just for those directly involved, but for everyone who witnessed the power of doing what's right, regardless of the personal cost.